Ben McKee and Patrick Brown of GoVols 24/7 here on campus with our No Huddle following Monday of NC State week. Tennessee takes a step up in competition this week and got to speak to Josh Heupel for a couple of minutes. Also spoke to a couple of players, Ethan Davis, Jeremiah Telander, Will Brooks, and the common theme was that there are things that they can find in that Chattanooga tape. Despite beating them 69-3, there are still things that they can find that can help them improve, which is accurate, but it is funny to hear after they beat a team by 66 points on Saturday.
Yeah, that was over and over again. You ask Heupel about a player, a position group. Yeah, there were good things. They played pretty well, but there's still things we can work on, and obviously coaches are wired to improve their teams from one game to the next, and the old adage is what you make your most improvements from your first game to your second game.
Yep.
If you're NC State, you need to do that because you didn't play very well against Western Carolina. If you're Tennessee, you've got to find ways to do that because you did play so well in really all three phases. So, but it's not going to be as easy. NC State's a good team. That's a program that's been built for over time by Dave Doran, and they've consistently won 8-9 games in the ACC year in and year out. So Tennessee knows it's going to be a tougher game, and they're approaching it that way this week.
Yeah, Ethan Davis says that they need to treat every opponent like it's the number one team in the country. If they do that, they'll have a successful season. Nico Iamaleava was announced as the SEC Freshman of the Week as we were stepping foot on campus. Technically co-Freshman of the Week with Alabama receiver Ryan Williams, who had 2 catches, I think, for 2 touchdowns and like a $150 or so. He had a really impressive couple of plays against Western Kentucky. But Josh Heupel pleased, but was asked about him winning Freshman of the Week, and in Josh Heupel fashion did not give too much credence to it. Talked about him being a young guy and that he played well, but if he takes that next step, he's a young guy and he needs to continue to take that next step and continue to develop. I thought Ethan Davis had some really cool comments about Nico and some adjustments they made on the sideline during the game as well.
Yeah, Ethan said that there was a play where maybe their timing was a little bit off and they went back to the sideline and Nico said, hey, get your eyes around a little bit quicker and I'll hit you. And he was like, okay, let's go. That's kind of how we've really heard all offseason and really all year about how Iamaleava carries himself as a leader. He's sort of a good one-on-one interactor. He's not a big rah-rah guy, not a big yeller and screamer and all that stuff, but really good in those situations. And if he sees something that a teammate can do better, or he sees why something went wrong, he's good about going and sort of fixing that and moving forward from there. And that was a good moment for Ethan Davis, who was one of his caught his first touchdown of the season last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Defensively, Ricky Gibson III, Josh Heupel alluded to him being able to play this past Saturday against Chattanooga. He was banged up with a hamstring injury second half of fall camp, so they wanted to be cautious with him. And Josh Heupel said overall there were a couple of guys that they held out that could have played, but for the longevity of the season, making sure they were ready for NC State, they elected to hold those guys out. So it does sound like Ricky Gibson III will be in action this weekend, which is big because he's a starter opposite of Jamal McCoy.
Yeah, that's what Heupel said, that he could have gone last week. He said he warmed up and almost made it sound like it was a game time call to hold him out. So they went with Jalen McMurray, and they played so many guys in the secondary and across the defense, and Gibson wasn't one of those guys. James Pierce only played 10 snaps. Everything's fine. He just played 10 snaps. That's it. So he should be fresh too. And Heupel did say that he expects Gibson to be back. I think the other guy he was sort of referencing there might be Mike Matthews, one of the few receivers we didn't see play.
And Braylon Staley.
All those guys sort of dealing with kind of minor nagging issues that they just didn't want to press in that game, and they're hoping they can get those guys back and have them available in this game. And Ricky Gibson would be key because NC State's got some good pass catchers on the outside. Kevin Concepcion has basically single-handedly won them the first game, so Tennessee's got to know where he is. He's mainly a slot guy, so could be a challenge for Christian Harrison and Boo Carter, but he's a guy that's NC State's best player, more or less, so they got to know where he is.
Yeah, this is the first real test, obviously, for Tennessee's defense.
Disrespecting the Mocs.
Look, they didn't score a touchdown, okay, and elected to kick some field goals when they probably should have gone for it on fourth down with the score being what it was. But this is obviously Tennessee's first big test defensively. They were pleased with how they performed on Saturday, obviously, but Will Brooks, Jeremiah Telander, Josh Heupel all talked about how we played well, but we're searching and we're seeing some things that we can clean up as well. And they better get it cleaned up if there are some things that they are truly identifying, because they also have an experienced quarterback, NC State does, in Grayson McCall.
Yeah, McCall's a sixth-year senior, I think.
Think so.
He's transferred from Coastal Carolina, where he was a 4-year starter. I think he missed most of last season with an injury, but God's won a lot of football games. Tennessee might throw a lot of different things at him. He's probably seen them all. So it's going to be interesting to see how they build the game plan and go from there. But yeah, he's a guy that's got a lot of experience, and you got to try to get him rattled. That's hard to do because he's been through so much. And but this is unquestionably going to be the best defensive line he's probably faced. Probably didn't see a lot of defensive lines like this in the Sun Belt. But if you're Tennessee, you got to be sharp, because if you're not sharp or you tip your hand, he can exploit it.
Absolutely. We've got plenty of coverage kicking off NC State week at GoVols247.com. He's Patrick Brown. I'm Ben McKee.